Hello, so let us look at the questions from January 2012. Okay, here it goes. The first question, we have two parallel lines, and these two angles are given. But you will realize that these two angles are alternate interior angles. Yes, that means these two angles must be equal to each other. So let's set it up. 6x plus 42 must be equal to 18x minus 12. That means we can add 12 to each side. We're subtracting 6x. Then we get to realize 54 will be in fact equal to 12x. Now, when we divide by 12, then x, this in fact, the common factor here would have been 6. So if you have to divide by 6, then we'll end up getting 2 and then 9. So 4.5 would have been our answer. Alright, choice number 2. In a given triangle, a point of intersection, the three medians. In fact, this talks about centroid. Centroid is the same point as the intersection of three altitudes. In fact, that will be the orthocenter. Now, that will be only possible in an equilateral triangle, because in an equilateral triangle, centroid, orthocenter, incenter, and circumcenter, all four centers are one point. Now, here let us try to remind ourselves of the equation of the circle. If the equation of circle is given in this way, the center will be h comma k, and radius will be equal to r. Now, in place of h, we have 2. In place of k, notice we have negative 3, because minus negative 3 becomes positive 3. So 2 comma negative 3 would have been our center. And 36 is r squared, so therefore r will be equal to 6. That means we are looking at choice number 2. Okay, let us look into the next question here. In a rhombus, then we have two diagonals. In fact, one thing which you have to realize is that in a rhombus, diagonals are perpendicular to each other, which creates a 90-degree angle. Then what is AMT? AMT, this, if we call this one as x, then you will realize that x and 12-degree angle has to be supplementary or complementary. So x plus 12 has to be equal to 90, where then x must be equal to 78 degrees. So here we go. Number 7. So we have length. On a coordinate geometry, we just have to go for the distance formula. Then here, 4 minus 1 square plus 7 minus 11 square. Then here we have 3 square, which will be equal to 9. 7 minus 11 becomes negative 4, squared becomes 16. Hence we get square root of 25 when you combine them together, which in fact is equal to 5. Notice that this was in fact, if you had to draw the triangle out of this one, it would have been 3, 4, 5 triangle. Number 6. In a triangle, measure of angle F is 42 degrees, and an exterior angle at vertex H measures 104. So then let's try to draw a triangle here. So I'm going to assume that this is F and this is H. And the 104 exterior angle was 104, and then this measure of angle F is 42, and I'm going to call this one as X. I'm sure that this has to be point G. Then what is the measure of the angle at G? Then we just have to, we realize that sum of the two angles has to be equal to the its exterior angle. So here we get 42 plus X will be equal to 104. By subtracting 42, we get to realize that x must be equal to 62 degrees. Choice 2 becomes our answer. Alright, equilateral triangle. That means we have to use the one line segment AB. So here, this mark right here that tells the readers that you are copying line segment AB, where here we don't see that. No, in fact, in this case, we realize that AB seems to be copied onto point C, but we have no idea if this line segment is equal to this line segment. So therefore, this one will not be the answer. Only thing that will be possible here is choice 1. Alright, so here we have AB is equal to 20. The whole thing is 20. And AE will be equal to 12. Now, as soon as you realize that this is 12, we realize that AD also is equal to 12 because the tangent line segment from a point outside of the circle to the circle are in fact congruent to each other, which makes this one, it has to be 8 because 20 minus 12 becomes 8. That makes this portion also equal to 8. Alright, now CF is equal to 15. Then what is AC? Alright. Then this is 15, that makes this is also 15. Then when you combine AD to DC, which makes AC is equal to 27. Choice 4 becomes our answer. Number 9, in triangle ABC and then DEF, we realize that the ratios of the sides are congruent. In fact, that gives us the hint of similar triangles. So let me try to just give you the sketch of that first. And let us say I have another triangle. Let us say make this one a bit smaller. So here we have ABC, and in that order D, E, F. Now AC to DF, that ratio is equal to each other. And then CB, which is this one, to FE is also equal to each other. That means, how can you realize that these two triangles are similar? We have to realize that the third ratio has to be equal to each other. That would be the SSS method to show that two triangles are similar, meaning all three corresponding sides are in proportion. But we don't see that AB being in proportion to DE any place. Another way which we can show that these two triangles are similar would have been angle C has to be congruent. Notice, not in proportion, but congruent to angle F. Angle C is congruent to angle F would be choice number 3. Number 10. In a triangle, the angles and the ratio of 8, 3 to 4. That means we can easily write out 8x, 3x, and 4x should be the measures of those three angles. But when you add them up, since it's a triangle, we have to realize that must be equal to 180. If you have to combine them, we get 15x must be equal to 180. When you divide by 15 from both sides, x will be equal to 12. Now, but 12 is not our answer because we are looking for the smallest angle. That means right here, 3x. Then 3x must be equal to 36 degrees. That becomes our answer. Number 11. A quadrilateral has been reflected about y equals x. Which relationship is not preserved? In fact, in case of a line reflection, only thing that's not preserved is the orientation. In other words, when you look into, if I were to just give you one figure for that matter, and then I'm going to call it AB, CD, and then let us assume that I have another figure that will be in fact flipped left and right. That means you will realize that the orientation, you see the ABCD goes into the clockwise, but here ABCD goes into counterclockwise. the orientation is not the same about the line reflection. So therefore, orientation is not preserved. Number 12. Just like previous questions here, center is 2 comma negative 8. That means x minus 2 and then plus y minus negative 8, which makes y plus 8 squared has to be radius squared. So that's basically what we're looking at. Choice 4 becomes our answer. All right, number 13. Negation is simply putting the word not. 2 is a prime number. That means 2 is not a prime number. So we're looking at choice number 1 or number 2. But 2 is not a prime number. That is not true. In fact, that is false because 2 is prime number. So therefore, our answer has to be choice 1. Now, if you want to try to figure out the measure dB, let's call that as x. The relationship is 50 plus x. You see the 2 intercepted arc divided by 2 has to be the measure of the angle inside, which is 34 degrees. Now, by cross multiplication, we have 50 plus x must be equal to 68. By subtracting 50, we get x must be equal to 18. Now, then 18 seems to be our answer. Next question, number 15. The volume of a rectangular prism is 144 cubic inches. The height is 8. What measures? Now you see, if I were to rewrite it, then length times width times 8 has to be equal to 144. Simply then, length times width, which means when you divide by 8, you get to realize that that's equal to 18. That means all you have to do is simply finding a combination that multiplies to 18. So let's try to look into this one. Which one will that be correct? Now 3.3 times 5.5. I believe that that's not going to be 18. In fact, only thing that will be equal to 18 is 2.5 times 7.2. So therefore, choice 2 becomes our answer. Just to check, I just took out the calculator. So here we have 2.5 times 7.2 will be equal to 18. All right. Number 16. We realize that these two triangles seems to have 2 pairs of congruent angles. All right, which statement must be true? Now, then in this case, you will realize that these two triangles must be congruent because of the reflexive property of BD is congruent to BD. That means all its corresponding parts should be equal to each other. So for example, ADB, that angle must be equal to CBD. That's not correct, because those, as you can see, are not necessarily congruent angles. Angle ABC, this big angle has to be congruent to ADC, which is not also correct, because this can be 2A while this can be 2B, where two different angles. AB must be equal to CD. AB must be equal to CD. Not necessarily, because AB is corresponding to BC. So here it goes. AD must be congruent to or equal to CD. That is correct, because those are corresponding parts here. Number 17. Now it has to be perpendicular to this equation. That means slope has to be negative reciprocal. So negative 5 over 3. That should be our slope. That means we are looking at choice 3 or choice 2. But it has to pass through the point 3 comma negative 6. 3 comma negative 6, that can be simply equal to negative 6 is equal to negative 5 over 3 times 3 plus b. This is one thing which we can do. Cancels out. So when you then we get to have negative 6 equals negative 5 plus b. So when you add 5 each, then b will be equal to negative 1. So therefore, our answer will be choice 3. Number 18. Point A lies in plane B. Now, as an example, alright, so let us say this is the plane, and this is point A. But line has been perpendicular to this point. Perpendicular to this plane through that point. That means this one seems to be the only answer. So otherwise, the fact that it is perpendicular, there are many perpendicular lines about that plane, but there's only one that will pass through this point A. So therefore, the answer is 1. Number 19. So this is an isosceles trapezoid. As you can see, one good way for us to analyze this one is simply bring down the straight line from each edge, each corner of the trapezoid. Then we get to realize that we end up having right triangle. Since this is 12, this is equal to 12. Now, then it leaves 14, that means this one has to be 7 and 7 because of the, since it's isosceles trapezoid. Then what is the altitude? Let's call that as h. Some of you might have recognized that this is 7, 24, 25 triangle. But just to calculate that one more time, we get to realize that 7 squared, h squared is equal to 25 squared. And here we get 49 plus h squared must be equal to 625. By subtracting 49 from each square, we get to realize that 576. Then h would have been equal to 24. Choice number 4 becomes our answer. Number 20. Here, I'm sorry, but this is negative sign. Was not printed here. So negative 2 comma 2 is the center. That means we are looking at x plus 2 while y minus 2. So we are looking at choice 1 or 2. But radius is equal to 3. That means the equation has to get 3 squared, which is 9. So choice 1 becomes our answer. Alright, we have a rectangular solid here given. What do you realize? EH and then BC, they're called planar. EH is right over here. BC is right over here. In fact, they are coplanar because those two line segments are parallel to each other. So our answer is choice 1. But let us try to see about other figures. FG and then AB. FG would have been this one, and AB would have been this one. These two line segments are skewed. They will never meet, but they're not parallel to each other. That means they cannot be in plane together. So they are not coplanar. So as the other two examples also. So once again, the answer is choice 1. Here we realize that two angles are 73 and then 58. Then let us try to figure out the third angle, which is angle T. So angle T, measure of angle T plus 58 plus 73 has to be equal to 180. Now that's equal to measure of angle T plus 131 has to be equal to 180. By subtracting 181 and 131 from each side, measure of angle T will be in fact equal to 49 degrees. That means that's the smallest angle. One thing which we have to realize is the opposite to the smallest angle will be the shortest side. So if we have smallest one has to be T, and then let us say this is R and this one is S. S is the biggest angle, 73. So therefore RT must be the longest, which will be this case. Then let's check up on the rest. Second one has to be R is the second largest angle, so opposite of R, which is ST, or T has to be the second largest side, which makes RS to be the shortest side. Choice 4 seems to be the correct answer. Number 23. So how do you find the sum of the measures of interior angles? It's simply 180 minus n minus 2. 180 times n minus 2. So here we get 180, and since we're looking at pentagon, 5 minus 2, that's what we end up getting. Once you calculate this one, our answer will be 540. So therefore, choice 3 becomes our answer. Alright, number 24. Now, the fact that the line has to be parallel, that means it has to contain 2 as its slope, and passes through 2 comma negative 1. That means y equals 2x plus b. From here, let us plug in 2 and negative 1. Negative 1 equals 2 times 2 plus b. The negative 1 equals 4 plus 4 plus b. By subtracting 4 from each side, b must be equal to negative 5. So our answer must be choice 3. Number 25. So endpoints of AB are such. Perpendicular bisector. Now, if I were to sketch the picture, then it might be a bit easier for you to look at it. So here, A is equal to 0, 0, which is right over here. And B is 0, 6. Now, equation of the perpendicular bisectors. In fact, perpendicular bisector here would have been going through the middle. Instead of vertical, it would have been horizontal. That would be the perpendicular bisector. Now, then what is the equation of this one? Since it's always going through, y being equal to 3, so equation would be y equals 3. Choice 4 becomes our answer. Alright, centroid of a triangle. In fact, centroids trisect each other, we call it, meaning it divides medians into 2:1 ratio. So PM, which is here 2x plus 5, and then BP 7x plus 4, that has been 2:1 ratio. In other words, 7x plus 4 must be equal to 2 times 2x plus 5. Then we get 7x plus 4 is equal to 4x plus 10. By subtracting 4 from each side and subtracting 4x from each side, we get to realize 3x must be equal to 6, where x equals 2. Then they're looking for PM, which is 2x plus 5. When x equals 2, 2 times 2 becomes 4, plus 5 becomes 9. So therefore, our answer is 9. Number 27. So, in triangle PQR, PRQ is a right angle. Now, then let me try to draw a right triangle first for you. So here, R is the right angle, and RT is drawn perpendicular to hypotenuse PQ. So let's call this one as PQ, and then so here it goes. This is equal to T. Now PT is equal to X, RT is equal to 6, and then TQ is equal to 4X. What is the length of PQ? Now the relationship is this in this case. If I were to bring this one over in this way, then you will realize that this line segment times itself has to be equal to left side times the right side. It looks almost like a smiley face. So I call it smiley face, but you can call it whatever you want to. So we have 6 squared must be equal to x times 4x. That means we get to realize 36 must be 4x squared where x squared then is equal to 9 by dividing it by 4, then x must be equal to 3. Now, then this portion is equal to 3, and this portion is equal to 12. So when you combine them, both of them together, it's got to be 15. All right, let's look at number 28. In triangle ABC, AB is 5 feet, and then BC is 3 feet. Now, you see, when we are given two sides, how do you find the third side? We call it triangle inequality. Basically, when you have 5 and 3 and x being the third side, x has to be between the sum of the two other sides, but it has to be greater than the difference of those two. Then here we get x has to be between 3 and 8. This has to be 3, then therefore this has to be 2 and 8, which will be choice 2. Notice it's not greater than or equal to, but simply strictly greater than 2, because for example, if AC were to be equal to 2, then we wouldn't get a triangle, but we will in fact get two flat lines. Let's look at number 29. We have a parallel lines in a circle O. What does that mean? That means these two arcs has to be equal to each other. So therefore we get to have 2x minus 20 must be equal to x plus 20 by adding 20 and subtracting x. We get to realize that x must be equal to 40. Then AB must be 40 plus 20, so measure of arc AB must be equal to 60 degrees. Number 30. So we need to sketch locus of points that are 1 unit from line segment AB. So let us say this is about 1 unit away. So I'm going to try to go for somewhat similar distance. So you see, 1 unit away from one line will be two parallel lines about that line. Now, second thing is this. Locus of points 2 units from M, that means 2 units from this circle would have been another circle. You see, this would have been about 1 unit away because the distance between the line AB to green dotted line was 1 unit away, which was the given locus. 2 units away, so we have to go further out. Now, then they want us to label X. Here, 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 here. Those are the 4 points that will satisfy both conditions. Number 31. What do you realize about these two lines? In order for us to do that, what we need to do is put them into y equals mx plus b format. So subtracting x from both sides, we have 2y must be equal to negative x plus 6. Now divided by 2, then y must be equal to negative 1/2 x plus 3. Now then here, between these two line segments, I understand that they have 3 at the end. That simply means that they have same y-intercept. But when you look at the slopes, they're negative reciprocal to each other, so therefore we know that those two lines are perpendicular. Two lines are perpendicular because first slope is equal to negative reciprocal of the second slope. Alright, number 32. We have 3 points given, and we want to get the rotation of the 90 degrees about the origin. Now, if I have x comma y, the rotation by the 90 degrees about the center or about the origin would have been simply negative y comma x, meaning switching x and y, and then negate the first one. That means we have r, which is negative 2 comma 3, will become r prime by negative 3 comma negative 2. And here s was 4 comma 4, and s prime would have been equal to negative 4 comma 4. We just switched it and then negate only the first one. T would have been 2 comma negative 2 will now be T prime. Switching it makes negative 2, but negation of negative becomes positive, so 2 comma 2. So let us try to just plot them and then let you see what's happening. R was negative 2 comma 3. S was equal to 4 comma 4. And T was 2 comma negative 2 originally. So we are looking at a triangle that would have looked something like this. But let me go for the its image after the rotation of 90 degrees. That means negative 3 and then negative 2. That's the R prime. And negative 4 comma 4 becomes S prime. And then T is negative 2 comma 2. No, it was 2 comma 2. So it looks like negative, but it's in fact 2 comma 2, sorry, 2 comma 2, which is T prime. Now, so if I were to connect that, so if you're to rotate this red triangle about the origin by 90 degrees, then you would have gotten this new blue triangle. All right, let us look at number 33. We want to construct the angle bisector. That means first we want to bring out the compass and a ruler. So here we're going to put the ruler over here. First take out your compass and put it at the corner of the angle, and then bring it out a little bit and draw an arc. Now you can change it or you don't have to change it, but now you have to go to the intersection between the arc and the ray of the angle and make sure you go more than half, and then just draw another arc and go to the other side without changing the width. Keeping the width, you're gonna draw another arc. Then you will realize that the intersection between those two arcs that you have created. Now what you're going to be doing is you will connect between the vertex and then that particular intersection. Alright, that means that must be, new blue line must be the angle bisector. Alright, let's look at number 34. So in fact this is a quite popular question, but if you do one thing nicely, then it becomes very, very nice and simple. Right over here. Draw another radius. Then here what we end up getting is this. AO, which is the radius, was equal to 10. Alright, and BE is equal to 4, which makes this portion to be equal to 6 to make the radius. Then here has to be equal to 10. We are trying to find out what CE is. CE in fact will be same as ED, because diameter or the radius that's perpendicular to a chord will bisect that chord into two equal parts. So therefore let's try to look into this one. Then if I call this one as X, some of you guys might even recognize the 6 and 10 and X. It's got to be 3, 4, 5 triangle double, which is 6, 8, 10. Or just for the calculation's sake, we'll try to do that. 6 squared plus X squared is equal to 10 squared. Then 36 plus X squared must be equal to 100. Where X squared must be equal to 64 by subtracting 36. X then must be equal to 8. Now, since X equals 8, CE also is equal to 8. Number 35. We have a triangle, and then we have each image after translation. We want to graph and label the triangle. Now we want to determine the relationship between the area of the triangle and its image. Let's try to look into that together and see what happens. First, original, I'm going to use the red. So 2 comma negative 2. And then 2 comma 1. And 4 comma negative 2. That's A, B, C. So that's the original triangle. 2 comma negative 2, 2 comma 1, and then 4 comma negative 2. You see the area of this triangle, we can easily see that base is 2 and height is equal to 3. So area of the triangle would have been 1/2 times base, which is equal to 2, times the height, which is equal to 3, which simply is equal to 3. Now, I'm going to use the blue to look at its image. After translation of 5 comma negative 2, that means A has to move over by 5 units. 2, 4, 5, and then negative 2, which will be right over here. There will be A prime. Same thing for B. Move over by 5 and move down by 2, which is C prime. B also move over by 5 and down by 2. B prime. You will once again realize the triangle of the area A prime, B prime, C prime has to be equal to 1/2. What's our base? Still 2. What's our height? Still 3. So therefore our answer will be still 3. So the areas of triangles are the same. After translation, A comma B, generally speaking. Alright, let us look at number 36. A paint can is in the shape of the right circular cylinder. Alright, the volume is 600 pi cubic inches. Alright, then we have so the radius or altitude is 12 inches. Volume is equal to 600 pi. Find the radius. Now, it's a pi r square h would have been the volume of the cylinder, while we have pi, in fact we have pi r we don't know, so pi r squared times 12 has to be equal to 600 pi. You'll realize that because both of them has pi, then we get 12r squared must be equal to 600. Dividing by 12 on each side, r squared must be equal to 50. Then r must be equal to square root of 50. But if you have to simplify this one, because 25 and 2, we get to realize that 5 radical 2 must be the simplest radical form. So 5 radical 2 inches. Alright, 1/10 of a square inch. I'll find the lateral area of the lateral area simply is this 2 pi r h. Then here 2 pi r is 5 square root of 2, h is equal to 12. Let's put that into our calculator. 2 times pi times 5 square root of 2, square root, let me just type it one more time, 2 pi 5 square root of 2 times 12. So therefore, our answer must be 533.1 square inches. That becomes our answer. Number 37, we have 3 points. A midpoint of HL is M, and then midpoint of LK is N. Now, and then we also have to show that they're parallel. So let's try to draw the pictures first. So here we have H is negative 7, 2. That's H. K is 3, negative 4. And L is 5, 4. M is midpoint of HL. M then can be found by using the midpoint formula. HL, then we get negative 7 plus 5 over 2, 2, 2 plus 4 over 2. Then you get negative 1, 3 becomes our answer. Let's see. Negative 1, 3. Yes, it does seem to be the midpoint of HL. Now, N is the midpoint of LK. LK right over here. So 3 plus 5 over 2, negative 4, plus 4 over 2. This seems to be a bit simpler. So we have 4, 0 becomes our midpoint. That's N. Now, if I have to connect them together, so what they want to show is that MN is parallel to HK. To show that those two lines are parallel, we need to find the slope. So slope of MN is this. 3 minus 0 over negative 1 minus 4, which is equal to 3 over negative 5. That's our slope. How about the slope of HK? So 2 minus negative 4. Negative 4 means making it positive, and then negative 7 minus 3. Then we get 6 over negative 10, which is equal to negative 3 over 5. As you can see, slopes are equal. Therefore, those two lines must be parallel. Since slope of MN is equal to slope of HK, we know that MN must be parallel to HK. Alright, let's look at number 38. AD is congruent to BC, that's given. So that's the first setup. Now, and then second one is, since the angle DAE, this angle is congruent to angle BCE, which is this portion of the angle. Now, other line segments are intersecting at E. We want to show the triangle AEF. AEF, which means the small triangle over here has to be congruent to CEG right over here, the upper right corner. So what are we going to do? First, we know that we know the one measure of the angle. Now, second thing is this: since we can use that these are alternate interior angles, that makes these two blue yellow lines to be parallel to each other. Now, that means we can say this angle must be also congruent to this angle by alternate interior angles. Now third, since one pair of the opposite sides are parallel and congruent, as you can see, we just proved earlier that they're parallel, that makes this as a this as a parallelogram. But one thing about parallelograms are diagonals are bisected each other, which makes this line segment equal to this line segment. That gives us angle, 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 side, angle, angle, side. Therefore, these two triangles must be congruent to each other. All right, let's try to write that up. So first we have statement and reasoning. First portion, let's put all those things up from here to here. Let us assume that we already did it. That's the given. How about this second portion? We realized that since those two angles are congruent, line segment AD must be parallel to line segment CB. Why? Because when alternate interior angles are congruent, the given lines are parallel. That's what we get to realize. Now, some of you might want to state that those two are alternate interior angles. That's perfectly fine before step number 2. Now, number 3, we can say that AFE, angle AFE, and then CGE, angle CGE are congruent because alternate interior angles are congruent in parallel lines. Now, once again, you want to state that these are alternate interior angles before step number 3. That's perfectly fine also. Now, step number 4. Here we have quadrilateral ABCD. ABCD is a parallelogram. Why? When a pair of opposite sides are congruent and parallel, it forms a parallelogram. Alright, number 5. Because it's a parallelogram, we get to realize that AE must be congruent to CE. Number 5, those are congruent to each other. Why? Because diagonals of a parallelogram bisect each other. Alright, so number 6 then we can say that triangle AEF must be congruent to triangle CEG by angle, side. Alright, that's about it. I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.